Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stats podcast, where today we're going over UFC Vegas 97, Burns versus Brady. First things first, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's the Stats and Stacks podcast coming off of a break week. I know it was only 1 week off, but I am juiced to the gills to go ahead and get back on some MMA Bat Tang. I need it in my life. I need it injected in my veins each and every week. I don't care how low level these cards are, even though the last one was atrocious. Just give me fights, baby. And they did. I love this card. People are talking trash about this fight card. Especially for an Apex card. This might be one of my favorite Apex cards they've ever put on, to be honest with you. It may not have the biggest name recognition outside of the main event, but all of these fights are fun. All of these fights have potential to be. There's 13 fights, and I can see a finish in every single one of them. Like, this is going to be a fun night of fights. So, without further ado, I know I might be one of the only ones excited for this, but let's go ahead and just jump right into it, shall we not? So let's go ahead and start with the very first fight of the night. We are looking at one that actually got postponed. It was supposed to be on the last fight card, and Nathan Fletcher actually got sick, so they had to push it back to this one. So we are looking at Zigomatis Ramaska at plus 120, going up against Nathan Fletcher at minus 140. Over under set at 1.5. Again, violent card. Over 1.5 is plus money at plus 125. Under 1.5, we're looking at minus 150. Because he's the one that pulled out, let's go ahead and just start with Nathan Fletcher. Both of these guys were on this season of The Ultimate Fighter. If you watched it, I apologize. He's 26 years old. He's a Cage Warriors product. He's 8-1 professionally. He has really good jujitsu. But his wrestling's not the greatest, so it's kind of hard for him to get it down there at times. His striking's not terrible, but that is not his bread and butter by any means. He's just serviceable on the feet. He tends to have pretty decent cardio, but he kind of reminds me. I don't know if it's just because he's British or just because he fought in Cage Warriors. He's kind of like the knockoff version of Paddy Pimblett, where he is a world class jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's not a good striker, but he has some heat in his hands. Just not a lot of technique, to be honest with you. And he doesn't really have good wrestling to get it down there. I've seen him take people down, but he's not a good wrestler. Like, it looks very sketchy. Sometimes it's guard pulling, sometimes it's just a lucky trip. Like, he kind of ends up on the ground somehow. All in all, he's 26 years old. He's not a finished product. If he can improve his striking game, he can be a good fighter in years to come. It's just he needs to fight a lower level of competition to compensate that right now. He also broke his leg in the Ultimate Fighter, and this is going to be his first fight since. So that's pretty interesting. He's pretty durable, but we'll see from there. On the other side, we have Zigomantis, who I'm not really that high on. And when these two were originally slated, I did go ahead and I have a pretty big bet on Nathan Fletcher. I went back and I was able. This fight was added like 3 days before weigh, 2 or 3 days before weigh-in, so I didn't really have a lot of time to fight tape it. In fact, this was announced like as I was recording in the last card. So I just went off of fight tape from the Ultimate Fighter. I unfortunately watched this season, and I just took what I saw from Zigomontes, what I saw from Nathan Fletcher, and just assumed Nathan was going to win. I might have flipped. I don't know. Zigomontes fight tape was actually better than I had anticipated. His striking's pretty good. In the show, he was very hittable, but he is kind of like a killer be killed, and I just figured that's why he was. I just figured he was fighting that way, like that's his style. Not necessarily. I think he was a little more aggressive just because he was in the Ultimate Fighter and he's trying to impress Dana. What isn't different is that he might be low key chinny. He's 9-2, and I've seen him drop multiple times, including in the Ultimate Fighter. He got dropped by someone a weight class under him. He got knocked out in his first ever career loss. So yes, this is someone that I've seen crack multiple times, and he's predominantly a striker. His jiu-jitsu is not good. It's not bad. It's serviceable, kind of how Nathan Fletcher's striking is. His wrestling's not very good. So this is going to be interesting. Um, his striking is good on the feet. He's very, very good on the feet, but his defense is still a liability. It's not as bad as it was on the show, but it wasn't great. And he doesn't gas out, but he can slow down at times. But he's a brawler. He marches forward and he hits extremely hard. Yes, you can crack him, but he can also put you out when you look at all of his record. He's probably fought the better level of competition, surprisingly. And I just don't grade Cage Warriors that highly. And at the end of the day, he does have a ton of power. Nathan Fletcher has been put out before. It comes down to the fact that Zigomontes is the clear better striker. Fletcher is the clear better grappler, and neither one can wrestle. So where does this fight take place? I have no fucking clue. I know Fletcher's going to try his hardest to get the takedown. I know Zigamont is going to try his hardest to keep this on the feet. Which one is the worst wrestler? I don't know. It's bad against bad in that department. Initially, I was on Fletcher, but the more I watched, the less happy I was with his wrestling. And if Zigamont doesn't keep this on the feet, he's going to kill Fletcher. So I think it's a 50-50 fight. I might have to take the plus money. In regards to Zigomontis, I think I've completely flipped, and especially Fletcher coming off of an illness, I have to flip. I have no choice but to flip. So the pick is going to be Zigomontis. The bet, I'd probably take the under. I don't like it being 1.5. I'll probably just eat some chalk, take the under 2.5, and call it a day. Just parlay it up with a few other things. That's the way I'm going to play this. So the pick is going to be Zigomontis. The bet is dog or pass with Zigomontis, or you can eat some chalk and parlay that under 2.5 alt line. Next fight of the night, we have Andre Petrosky at minus 270 going up against Dylan Butka at plus 220. Over 2.5 is minus 175. Under 2.5 at plus 135. Let's start with Andre Petrosky because we kind of know what we're getting with Andre. He's 31 years old. He's not going to change anything. He's a Henzo Gracie, Philly Gracie boy. He's a very, very, very good wrestler. He's very, very, very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. His striking has improved over the years. I will say it looks night and day better. We saw him strike a lot in the Jacob Malkoon fight. We saw him strike a decent amount in the fight before that. I can't recall who it was. He did not strike at all in the Josh Frum fight, nor should he have. He just took him down at will. Oh, not the Michel Pereira fight. The Gerald Mearshart, we saw him strike a lot. Gerald's not the greatest striker in the world. But the book on Andre Petrowski is that he's a wrestler, he's a grappler, he can strike, but it's not great. It's very low volume, and he's extremely chinny and extremely gassy. The things you want to be best at, to be really, really, really good at the UFC, you want to have great cardio and you want to have a great chin. Petrosky has neither. So he kind of has to go out there and finish you early. Yes, he has some third round finishes. Yes, he has some decision wins, but the dude is huffing and puffing. Luckily for him, Josh Fremd also doesn't have good cardio. Lucky for him, Gerald Mearshart also doesn't have good cardio. Wellington Turman doesn't have great cardio. These decision wins that he has on his record are against other guys who also gas. So it's very, very concerning. I don't like his chin. He's going to be notoriously known for getting knocked out by Jacob Malkoon's hip. Like that was bad. I mean, they label it here as ground strikes after hard collision. The dude shot a double leg into Jacob Malkoon's hip and knocked himself out. That's how bad his chin is. He's knocking himself out in fights. So yeah, he's always going to be a liability. You have to give him a real cupcake matchup when they gave him Josh Frum, when they gave him Wellington Turman or Nick Maximoff, these guys, Yazong Hu, like these guys are Michael Gilmore. These guys are absolutely terrible, and he's going out there and he's making it look easy. If you give him someone good like Jacob Malkoon's hip, or you give him Michel Pereira, he's going to go out there and he's going to get starched. So it's all about who he's fighting. He's fighting Dylan Butka, who I think is one of the worst middleweights in the UFC. I think this is an according fight for Andre Petrowski. Dylan Butka, just like Andre Petrowski, fancies himself a wrestler. He has okay wrestling, but it's mainly just cage control. He doesn't really get takedowns. He just pushes you up against the cage. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage, which is nice if this turns into a striking affair. He's decently strong, but he himself is not a clean striker. Like it's probably a wash on the feet. Both of them are just terrible. God awful striker against god awful striker. He himself has pretty decent jujitsu, but Andres is better. He's a decent wrestler, but Andres the better wrestler. He also has zero volume. Like the dude averages 1.8 significant strikes per minute. The dude literally hits you with less than two strikes per minute. Like the dude does not throw. He just holds you against the cage and prays you stay there. And I've seen this in multiple fights. This is not just the last fight that he took on short notice against Cesar Almeida. No, he did that in his contender series fight. He did that on the regional scene. He pushes you up against the cage and just has cage control. That's all he does. It's very peculiar. I don't know why he's in the UFC, to be honest with you. He's only 24 years old. He can definitely work on things, but he also showed that he was gassed out in his last fight. Now, I will say part of that is probably cutting down the 185 and taking it on short notice. That probably attributed to him gassing out, or it's the fact that he fought someone that wasn't just staying down and he gassed out because he had to wrestle repeatedly. You know what Andre Petrosky is going to make you do? Wrestle repeatedly. Andre Petrosky knows he has a bad chin. He does not want to strike. He can do it a touch, but he does not want to do it. He wants to wrestle, and he's going to get tired wrestling. You know who else is going to get tired wrestling? Dylan fucking Budka. Dylan Budka's trash. He should not be in the UFC. Petrosky is a liability. He should not be trusted at minus 270. But at the end of the day, I will always take the talent. The pick is going to be Andre Petrosky. The bet is going to be Andre Petrosky. But God bless. Next fight of the night, we have more people that honestly should not be trusted. We have Jacqueline Amarim at minus 325 going up against Vanessa Demopoulos at plus 260. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 215. Under 2.5 at plus 165. That's an interesting line. Let's start with Amarim. Hamarim is a world class jiu jitsu practitioner. She's a very, very, very good grappler. She's only 29 years old, is going to have a 7-inch reach advantage in this matchup. Her striking's not great, but she hits very, very hard. She's very, very physical, very, very big, very, very strong, has a few KOs on her record. And when she takes you down, she is a wet blanket. She is a motherfucker to get off of you. And again, her wrestling's not great, but it's okay. It's not bad. It's good enough. It's jujitsu wrestling. Like these guys and girls aren't good wrestlers, but they know how to manipulate you and eventually get you to the ground. And when they do, you are in their world and you can't shake them off you. She is like female Damian Maya, where he can hit decently hard, but his wrestling's not great, but he can get you down to the ground. And once he does, you don't get up. That's what Amarim is. That can work in women's MMA outside of one factor: cardio. Her cardio's bad. It's very, very bad. When you look at her record, she's at a great camp at American Top Team. But when you look at her record, it's round one finish, 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 and then she makes it to the UFC. And Sam Hughes does not go out. Sam Hughes doesn't get choked out. Sam Hughes didn't get knocked out. Sam Hughes made it to round two. And Almarim fell off a fucking cliff. Could not even stand up, and God bless her making it to the third round. She literally was a zombie out there, a shell of herself, and Sam Hughes beat the absolute dog shit out of her in round three. She has 5 to 6 minutes of cardio. That's all she has. Obviously, she addressed that. And when she fought Montserrat Ruiz, all she did was take her down and just rest. She didn't really strike. She could have gotten her out of there in round one if she just ground and pounded, but she continually kept trying to armbar her. Montserrat Ruiz apparently is incapable of being armbarred. I remember there's a point in time where people thought you couldn't tap out Benson Henderson when Donald Cerrone was yanking his arm back. To some people, it just doesn't work like that. It's their arms are very flexible, and she found out that Ruiz's arms are like just Gumby out there. So she continually tried to armbar and couldn't get it, and then would just get on top and lay on top. And then eventually in the third round, with just a few minutes left, she decided to just strike while on top because she only had another minute of cardio to last. So she just went ahead and went for it and got the TKO. She could have gone for that, but she was petrified of gassing herself out. And then her next fight, Corey McKenna took her down, which is the worst fight IQ moment I've ever seen in my life. And she immediately armbarred her twice. She submitted her. The refs grabbed them and said, "Never mind, actually keep fighting." And then she submitted her again. Yeah, the girl is the real deal on the ground. She can get you to the ground. She's got to finish you early. She doesn't finish you early, she's in some serious trouble with that gas tank. On the other side, we have Vanessa Demopoulos, who seemingly has a very good gas tank. However, she is 35 years old. And my biggest concern with Vanessa Demopoulos is that she's not the greatest striker. She's a jujitsu girl. So this is jujitsu on jujitsu. This is ADCC world champ versus stripper guard. I mean, Vanessa is good on the ground. I will give her that. Um, and her striking has gotten much better. She's kind of been floating all around. She was at Factory X, or she was at Fight Ready. She went to Factory X Muay Thai, where her striking has gotten much better while she's there. She's extremely hittable on the feet. But she does throw with some heat. She cracks with those little T Rex arms. She has good cardio. She's very durable. I don't think she's ever been knocked out. So the only way to put Vanessa Demopoulos out is to decision her or try to submit her. Like that's really the only ways to do it. And unfortunately, in this matchup, she has 30% takedown defense. Again, Amarim, not a good wrestler, but Vanessa's worse. 30% takedown defense. And to get taken down and to just throw stuff up on your back is not a good look with Amarim. Amarim will be ready for it. Amarim is the better jujitsu girl. So it's jujitsu on jujitsu, and one girl is head and shoulders better than the other. But Vanessa has two things going for her. One, cardio, and two, Vegas loves the stripper, loves her. She has had some of the most questionable decisions I've ever seen in my life. She sits down, she plays guard, and she kios when she's on the feet. She's not hitting you. You are blocking or you're evading her strikes, but she just grunts and yells as she strikes, kind of like the Caitlin Chukagian does, and just think of like Venus and Serena Williams when they're hitting the tennis ball and they just yell. That's exactly what Vanessa does with her punches, and it influences the judges. I don't know if there's stuff going on backstage with her and these judges, but the Emily Ducati fight, she got outstruck by 50 strikes and got taken down twice and won the fight. Kanako Murata, she got outstruck by 4 significant strikes, had Murata had like 12 minutes of control time and had 5 takedowns. And they unanimously gave it to Vanessa Demopoulos. She won a split decision against Jinyu Frey that was sketchy. Like, all she does is win these sketchy, sketchy cards in Vegas. These score cards are criminal, and I've seen people get away with robberies. The, the girl has had 4. Like, it's bad. It's really, really bad. They love her in Vegas. They love Vanessa Demopoulos in Vegas. And she's durable. So if she survives, which she should on the feet, and this goes into second and third round, Amarim's in trouble. Then again, Vanessa does play guard, and I don't think that's what you want to be doing with Amarim. So what happens here? Is it an Amarim round one sub, or is it Vanessa Demopoulos taking over late? I don't know. But I do know that Amarim is a minus 325 favorite with no cardio. And I cannot trust that. Vanessa is not the better jiu-jitsu practitioner, but as long as she doesn't have to win the first round, just survive. All she has to do is survive. And if Amarim takes you down, for the love of God, don't play guard. Get up. She's going to be tired. Get back up. And Amarim will gas. So the pick is going to be Amarim, but there's no way I'm betting her at that line. If I'm betting anything, I'm live betting Vanessa Demopoulos if she survives. So the pick is going to be Jacqueline Amarim. The bet is going to be Vanessa Demopoulos live bet, which is a scary thing to say. Next fight of the night is one where I'm a little more confident. We have Gabriel Santos at minus 260 going up against Yi Za at plus 210. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 160. Under 2.5 at plus 125. Let's go ahead and flip it this time. Let's start with Yi Za. He's 25-4, which is a nice record. Very, very experienced fighter, especially for only being 27 years old. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. That's it. He can't strike. His striking's pretty bad. His volume's very, very low. He does march forward and pressure you, but that's just to try to get the takedown, push you up against the cage. He has pretty good cage wrestling. He's not really good out in the open. His cardio's okay. He can go a good like 12 minutes. He slows towards the end of the fight, but he could go hard enough to where he can win a majority of the time there. He's very hittable when he's on the feet. You could piece him up. But at the end of the day, he's looking to do one thing: take you down, grapple you, and either submit you or hold you, hang on for dear fucking life. His level of competition, not great. I don't really think Road to UFC fighters are all that great. I mean, over in the regional scene in that part of the world, nothing against them, just not really that good. And even their records are, kind of sketchy: 8-7, 0-3, 5-10, 4-7, 3-1, 4-16. Like that's all prior to any loss of the kid that was 5-10. That's scary. Got knocked out, so might be low key chinny. Obviously, he's fought better people as he's progressed, but even just like 2020. When does he fought the better people? The better people are all in Road to UFC. Outside of the Road to UFC, these guys are still 6-5. They're 24-11, and it knocked him out. 11-10, 2-2. His level of competition is ass. It's worse than I noticed. If he fights someone with a winning record, he loses. Yeah, Jungle Lee had a winning record, and he lost. This guy had a winning record, and he lost. He beat this guy with a winning record, and this one. This guy's 6-5 by the skin of his teeth. So he's beat like 5 people with winning records out of his 25 wins. That's sketchy. Very sketchy. Gabriel Santos, on the other hand, has the complete opposite effect. He's beat a lot of very good people on the regional scene before even making it to the UFC and has kind of fizzled out in the UFC, but oddly, it's in a weird way. I still believe in Gabriel Santos. I think he's very, very good. He's 27 years old. He's super well rounded. He has good striking. He has a very dangerous guard and very good jujitsu. His wrestling's pretty decent. He's a little hittable on the feet, which is not good. But that's because he fought David Onama and Lerone Murphy. Like the Lerone Murphy is a top 5 guy in the weight class right now, and David Onama's top 10. Oh, and did I mention he lost to Lerone by split decision in Britain? I locked Lerone Murphy that night, and I'm telling you, he lost that fight. Lerone Murphy did not win. That was some hometown cooking. Gabriel Santos won that fight. I bet David Onama because David Onama is my boy. Bet David Onama that fight. Did I expect him to win? No, but I thought the odds were a little crazy. He was like plus 250. It was a little out of control. And he was beating the absolute shit out of David Onama and then got caught with the uppercut and got put out. So he's 0-2 in the UFC. He got screwed in a split decision by the hometown guy and then got clipped by a power puncher when he was winning the fight. This dude is one of the best 0-2 fighters I've ever seen in the UFC. And I had mentioned before coming into the UFC, he beat Elves Brenner, who's very, very good and doing very, very well in the UFC. Like he was fighting UFC level guys prior to. Yeah, man, I don't know where he's bad. He has good cardio. I guess the biggest problem with him is that he's a little chinny. He'll play guard from time to time if he is on the ground, but he wrestled Onama because he didn't want to strike. I mean, before he got clipped, he was wrestling him, so he was striking with Lerone Murphy and mixed in takedowns. He has good fight IQ. I saw him do it to Els Brenner. He kept taking down Els Brenner in their regional fight. He's good, man. He's very, very good. I'm just scared that he's either underrated and we're getting a great line, or I'm getting tricked into these good losses like I did with Bedoya. I don't want him to be a Bedoya 2.0, but I do think he's much better than the Bedoya. And at the end of the day, the only one that matters is if he's better than Yi. And that is a yes. The pick is going to be Santos. The bet's going to be Santos. I'm fairly confident in it. Very confident in it. Next fight of the night is one that I am not confident in at all. We have Andre Lima minus 185 going up against Felipe Dos Anjos at plus 150. Felipe Dos Santos at plus 155. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 245. Under 2.5 plus 185. We talked about the 0-2 start for Santos and how it was weird. Let's talk about the 2-0 start for Andre Lima. That's very, very weird. He won in Contender Series and he automatically fought another Contender Series fight in Igor Sarvino. And that's that fight where he got bit. He was winning the fight. It was a pretty close fight, but he did look like he was starting to slow down just a touch. And then Igor just lost his shit and bit him. So that was a weird way to get a win, but we got the W. Then he fought Mitch Raposo. I locked him yet again. Mitch, I think, is a good fighter, but he's too small. And Andre is a physical specimen, and I thought he would just overwhelm him, which he kind of did. But he kind of took like the I'll always attribute it to a Vitor Petrino approach, where he's very just slow and lethargic looking, and he's throwing everything with heat. But when he does, it's just kind of like he doesn't care. He's very nonchalant out there. It was just a very uncharacteristic fight for Andre Lima because I've watched his regional scene. I watched him in the contender series. He's usually kind of aggressive, but he fancies himself more of a counter striker. And essentially, what was happening is Mitch Raposo wasn't throwing anything. Mitch Raposo would just circle around the octagon and try to wrestle. And when he couldn't get a takedown, because Andre's a much bigger guy and pretty decent takedown defense, he would just kind of cower and sit back and kind of just circle the entire time. And Andre had nothing to counter. Mitch wasn't throwing. He was scared to throw. He had literally nothing to counter, so all he did was leg kick him and wait for him to come in. Leg kicked and waited, and Mitch never came. I think part of it, I mean, part of the blame should be on Andre, but part of it should be on Mitch. Mitch never gave him anything to counter, so Andre just leg kicked him to death. He's 25 years old, so he's only going to get better and better each fight. He's 9-0, undefeated. And outside of the Mitch fight, usually displays very, very good striking. Has this nasty step and elbow that he throws all the fucking time. And plot twist, brown belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He's very good and proficient on the ground as well. If you want to take him down there, his wrestling's not bad. Takedown defense pretty solid. But if you do take him down, again, he's good on the ground. He could throw a little more volume, but that's because he's a counter striker. All counter strikers are usually lower volume than not. That's just how it works. He'll kick a lot if you don't, though. If you're not throwing, he'll just leg kick you to death. And he hits decently hard. Like he does crack. He carries a ton of knockouts on his record on the regional scene. In the UFC, not so much. Getting bit and then getting a decision on the contender series. So the higher level competition, the more likely you are to go the distance. But again, he's 25 years old. He's only going to get better. I love his body work. He throws a lot of stuff to the body. Kid's a good fighter. I don't want people to take that last fight and just paint a picture of Andre Lima. That's not him. He's a counter striker with nothing to counter. So he just leg kicked him in a very, very boring fight. I have no idea how that was a split decision. That ref should have been that judge should have been kicked out. On the other side, we have a very popular dog in Felipe Dos Santos. He's another one of these guys where he lost impressively, so people are on him. He stepped in on short notice and fought Manel Kopp and gave Manel Kopp everything he could handle. He trains out of Shoot to Box, which is a proficient gym with Charles Oliveira, Ian Gary, just a lot of great fighters coming out of Shoot to Box. He himself is only 23 years old, so he's viewed as some up and coming prodigy. He's going to have a 2.5 inch reach advantage here. And I'll give it to him. He does have good striking. He has pretty decent jujitsu. Uh, the problem I have with him is that he's a little wild. I do love the pressure he puts on, but with all that pressure, he doesn't believe in moving his head, and he's very, very hittable. He also believes with the shoot to box style, they all kind of get hit a lot, and he doesn't believe in checking leg kicks. He doesn't believe in head movement. He just wants to kill you with pressure. He has good striking again and good jujitsu, but it's wrestling. Woo! His wrestling's bad. Everyone's going to talk about it. 9 takedowns to Victor Altamirano. Victor Altamirano is an undersized Mexican boxer. Took him down 9 times. And somehow Felipe got that decision. That was a robbery of all robberies. Victor won that fight. Like, I have no idea how they gave that fight to Felipe Dos Santos. He should be 0-2 in the UFC, not 1-1. So that's what scares me. He's so wild. He's so pressure heavy. He has good cardio. So what people are saying is that he's gonna just break Andre because they've seen Andre slow in the past. He was slowing in that Igor fight, and he slowed in one other fight on the regional scene. But he's had 9 fights. He's looked fine in 7 of them. He's slowed in 2 of them. I wouldn't call him a gasser. I don't know if that was just the way things were going. And in that Igor fight, yes, he started to slow down, but it wasn't because Igor was just pressuring. It's because Igor was pressuring and wrestling. Felipe can't fucking wrestle. 16% takedown defense was taken down 9 times by Victor Altamirano. What Felipe wants to do is pressure you and break your will. but he can get out physical at times. He's kind of small out there as well. He's not a lot of. He's 23 years old. He doesn't have that man body yet. He's still growing, and you can kind of toss him to the side a little bit, and he marches forward without moving his head. That petrifies me with Andre. I can definitely see a world where Felipe breaks him with cardio and dominates. I can totally see that. I can also see a world where he continually walks forward and gets his lights put out easily. Like that might be what actually happens. He also doesn't check leg kicks. You got to check leg kicks, buddy. You got to move your head, check leg kicks. You got to do at least one of those because at the end of the day, Andre's going to hurt you if you don't. I don't think Andre Lima is ever going to be world champion, but I do think he's pretty well rounded. I do think he's pretty smart. And I do think he sticks to his game plan. He is a counter striker, and Felipe just marches forward with tons of volume. He's going to give him a shit ton of stuff to counter. I think one of them could put him out. And I've seen Felipe drop multiple times. He gets dropped all the fucking time. One of these times he's going out. It might be this one. So although I understand Felipe, and I literally want to click that button, I can't. I just physically can't. I'm going to pick Lima, and I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to bet Lima. That's just the way it is. Styles make fights, baby. So does this one. Next fight, we have Isaac Dolgarian at minus 1,800 going up against Brendan Marat at plus 1,000. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 260. Under 1.5 at minus 360. These odds are insane. Let's start with Brendan Marat and figure out why he's plus 1,000. Marat is part of the Boston Cartel, so he's training with Rob Font, training with Calvin Cater. He's 28 years old. He has good striking. Sorry, New England Cartel. He has good striking. That's it. That's really it. His jiu-jitsu's all right, but God, this guy is a Dustin Poirier. He's a Dustin Poirier protege because he is part of the Gilly Goose gang, baby. He will jump Gilly. He loves jumping Gilly. He seemingly has good cardio, which is good on him, but he's a little chinny. I've seen him rock multiple times. His UFC debut, I mean, cut him some slack. He stepped up on short notice and fought up a weight class fighting T Rex. That was a death sentence, and he got handled accordingly. He got knocked out in 20 seconds. It didn't take long. So he was a little chinny to begin with. And his takedown defense is trash. Mainly because he's just jumping Gilly every single time. This dude literally thinks he's Dustin Poirier. He has good striking, jumps guillotine, bad takedown defense. He's Dustin Poirier or Dustin Poirier, but just a pretty bad version of it. On the other side, they gave him Isaac Dolgarian, which they're just trying to get Isaac back on track. The UFC believes in Isaac Dolgarian. The UFC wants Isaac Dolgarian to succeed. He's 28 years old, training out of Factory X Muay Thai, which is a predominantly striking camp. But the dude's a wrestler, and he is a wrestler through and through. Good wrestling, like very, very, very good wrestling. Good jujitsu. His striking we saw for the first time in the Christian Rodriguez fight. It was all right. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was okay. But we did get the question asked or answered. He was riding a hot streak. He was what was he 5-0. All of his 5 wins were round one ground and pounds. He takes you down and he punches your head through the fucking mat. And nobody could stop it. Even on short notice against Francis Marshall, who's not a bad fighter, took him down and punched his head through the fucking mat. No one could stop it. And then he ran into Christian Rodriguez. And he 10-8'd Christian Rodriguez in round one. But Christian Rodriguez is Mexican, and you can't knock out Mexicans. Christian Rodriguez has a chin on him, and he was able to survive. And when he survived, that was bad for Isaac Dolgarian because the dude gassed trying to put him away. World class wrestling. World class wrestling. Very, very good jiu-jitsu. Some of the best ground and pound I've ever seen, but the dude gassed when he couldn't get the finish. Uh, Christian Rodriguez is just a tough, tough dude, and ultimately won a split. It was a very, very close fight. Most people thought it should have been a draw because he 10-8'd. He 10-8'd Christian Rodriguez round one. And then Christian won round 2 and 3. But someone gave him Round 3 is a 10-8, which is interesting. So that's what ultimately gave Christian the win. I think it should have been a draw personally, or you could have potentially given that to Isaac. But Brendan is not Christian Rodriguez. Brendan does not have a chin on him. Brendan has a terrible, terrible, terrible takedown defense, and he's a part of the Gilly Goose Gang. He's just going for a guillotine. So the pick is going to be Isaac. The bet's going to be Isaac. You can't bet it at minus 1,800. You can't even really bet the under 1.5 at minus 360. And part of me scared. A lot of times when these guys are undefeated, they go out there and they gas out and then get their first L. They overcompensate and they are really like just really mindful of their cardio out there. We saw it with Jacqueline Amory in her next fight after gassing out against Sam Hughes. They're just very just cautious. They'll go for a takedown, but they'll wait a long time. So I don't want to play with that over under in case Isaac is a little gun shy after coming off his first loss. Um, you can't bet Brendan at that. I don't know. You can't really bet this fight. If you want to get absolutely nuts, I would just take a very small wager and do Brendan by guillotine or Brendan by submission. What if he catches him in that guillotine that he always jumps? Then you have him by sub, and it's going to be an astronomical number. Otherwise, you have to stay away from this fight. I think Isaac kills him, but you can't bet it at these lines. Next fight of the night is another one that I really don't want to touch, but the UFC is kind of forcing my hand. We have OSP Ovin St. Preux at plus 270 going up against Ryan Spann at minus 340. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 125. Under 1.5 minus 160. God, I don't even know who to start with. Let's start with Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann has good striking, shockingly good jiu-jitsu. He's 33 years old, carries a ton of power, but that's where the good qualities die. He's very hittable. He has 47% takedown defense. He's missed weight multiple times, so watch that, and has had some bad weight cuts. He's a little chinny. He gives up, and his cardio's terrible and he can't really offensively wrestle. So yeah, you want to talk about Brendan being a part of the Gilly Goose Gang. Ryan Spann's guillotine. Jesus, how many does he have on his record? Probably too many to count. He is one, two, three, rear naked choke. That's nice. Four, five, six, seven. God, eight. Yeah, he has 8 guillotines on his record. That's excessive. That's saying he has a type, and he loves for you to jump on his neck because the dude has a tight squeeze on him, and he's taking that neck home. All he wants you to do is shoot a takedown so he can snatch that neck. And if you don't, and you're smart enough not to shoot a double and have him grab your neck, he can put your lights up. He has a mean overhand right. He carries a ton of power. Ryan Spann isn't a bad fighter. He just has no cardio and no chin. He's very chinny. You want to look about his losses? Most of them are by knockout. He got choked out on the regional scene. He lost to Trevin Giles, who now fights at 170, so that's not a good look. Knocked out by Carl Roberson's a terrible look. Knocked out by Johnny Walker is not a good look. Getting choked out by Anthony Smith isn't a good look. Nikita Krylov in a back and forth battle. I remember it being back and forth and him gassing out. The fight was only 3 minutes and 30 seconds, so he gassed out in 3 minutes. That's not good. Gassed out against Anthony Smith in 2023. That's not a good look. Getting knocked out by Bogdan Goskov. Terrible look. And that was because he gassed out and has a bad chin. So the dude is on a 3-fight losing streak. Granted, Anthony Smith and Nikita Krylov are both top 15. Guscan is not. Johnny Walker, he's going up to heavyweight. This is just a weird fighter, man. He can put you out at any point. He can finish any fight in round 1, but he himself can get put out at any point in time. On the other side, we have OSP, who is 41 years old, red flag number 1. Very low volume when he's on the feet, red flag number 2. Can be a little chinny himself, getting knocked out by the likes of Philippe Lenz, Tanner Bozer. Neither one of these guys have any other knockouts in the UFC. Red flag number 3. Cardio, god awful because he's 41 years old. Red flag number 4. Very hittable when he's on the feet. Red flag number 5. 67% takedown defense. Some 70% is not good. Red flag number 6 has missed weight multiple times himself. Red flag number 7, like this dude's bad, but he's fought a good level of competition and he hits hard and he has the Von Prue choke, baby. He will he will hit that Von Flu like no other. How many Von Flus does he have? Everyone, I think only one other person has more than one in the UFC, or only has one. And he has how many? He did it to Ion Cutelaba, I know. That's one. He did it to Michael Holy and Chaychuk. That's two. Um, did he? Oh, he knocked out Corey Anderson. Nice. He did it to Yushin Okami. Jesus. Number 3, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Number 4. How many times has he hit this fucking Von Flue choke? That's insane. It's nuts. So at the end of the day, they're both okay at jujitsu. They both hit extremely hard. They're both chinny, both have bad cardio. What I will say is that OSP's last fight was against Kennedy Njoku. Kennedy is Ryan Spann's best friend and main training partner. Kennedy lost a a weird split decision there, where he just didn't really do anything. And now he's calling his big brother to come and handle his business. So I think Ryan Spann is on a 3-fight losing streak. I think Ryan Spann needs the money, and I think Ryan Spann is going to want to defend his best friend. So I think he's going to come out mean. He's going to come out aggressive. Can he get countered and put out? Absolutely. It's fucking Ryan Spann. Can he just overwhelm OSP like Tanner Bozer did, like Felipe Lenz did? Like, we're not just saying he got knocked out. He got knocked out in 40 seconds. He got knocked out in the start of round 2 against Tanner Bozer. That's not good. Jamal Hill doesn't have a ton of knockouts on his record. Got knocked out by Jamal Hill. Like, all these guys that are known as being pillow fisted, Jamal Hill couldn't knock out 45-year-old Glover, but he knocked out OSP. So all these guys with just a history of being pillow fisted are knocking him out. So if anything, you're taking the under here. Again, under 1.5 is -160. I hate that. You got to eat the chalk. So the pick is going to be Ryan Spann. The bet is going to be the under 2.5. I'm going to take that alt line and I'm just going to parlay it up with some other things and just go about my day. Next fight of the night is probably the one I'm most confident in this fight card. We have Zhu Rong at -260 going up against Chris Taco Padilla at +210. Over under, again, set at 1.5. I expect this to be a violent card. Over 1.5, -200. Under 1.5 at +155. Let's start with Chris Padilla. He's not someone that I tout highly. He has pretty good wrestling. That's it. His jiu-jitsu is okay. He has a 1.5 inch reach advantage here, which is going to be nice in this matchup. His striking serviceable, but it's not great. I mean, he's 14-6 and only has one fight in the UFC. So he was 13-6 on the regional scene. That's pretty spotty and sketchy. He has pretty decent cardio, it seems. He's only 28 years old, so he could be getting better. But he's just kind of a generalist. He's okay everywhere, not bad anywhere. But when he fights anyone that's UFC caliber, he loses. James Yontop, we don't know if he's UFC caliber. He hasn't won in the UFC yet. He's 0-2. So to be determined. Justin James had one crazy knockout win to start his UFC career. Didn't win since. Outside of that, Darren Smith Jr., have no idea who that is, but he lost to him on the regional scene. That's not good. Devin Brock, no idea who that is, but he was 6-4 and lost to him on the regional scene. That's not good. Nate Andrews was in the UFC. This was in 2018, so he still would have been old as shit. He lost to him. That's not good. Gabe Green is in the UFC, but went out there and submitted him in round 1. That's not good. Christian Aguilera was in the UFC, went out there and got decision to beat pillar to post. That's not good. Jason Gonzalez was in the UFC, went out there and knocked him out in round 2. That's not good. So his loss, he's fought some guys in the UFC. His record against people that have been in the promotion is 1-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1-5. If you want to count James Yontop, we can. So that would be 2-6. Not good. Now he's fighting Zhang Ru, who is UFC caliber. Now, he was not when he was initially in the UFC. This is his second go around in the UFC. And right now he's 24. So what does that tell you? He was 20 and 21 years old when he was signed to the UFC originally. And this is kind of like this is very reminiscent of the Yusuf Zalal scenario. He had a whole bunch of talent. He came out and he looked okay, but he just couldn't buy a win for some reason because of his age, his experience. UFC caught him and told him to find himself, figure out what you want to do. You come out here and you wrestle against some guys, you strike against others, you're losing close fights, you're getting submitted by people that are predominantly strikers. Like you're missing weight. Like he was just kind of lost. He was there way too early at 21 years old. You're just sending a 21-year-old kid across the world to go fight in Las Vegas. Like he just was not ready at 21. Went back to the regional scene in his own country and dominated. Showed that he has good striking. Showed that he does have good wrestling. Showed that his jiu-jitsu is pretty okay. It's decent. Shows that he can have good cardio and good volume. Showed that he can make weight. On paper now, 85% takedown defense in the UFC and Road to UFC put together. If you do take him down, show that he has a good get up game and was very patient. Didn't just subject himself to getting rear naked choked or giving up down there. Loves the pressure forward, has really crisp counters. Like the dude's good. He's good everywhere, and he's just maturing. And you can just see the difference in use of Zalal now. You can see the difference in use in freaking Rongju. He just looks night and day different. Still 30 fights. Okay. 30 professional fights, and the kid's 24 years old. He just wasn't ready at 21. He has a wealth of experience. He's grown into his man body. He looks physically bigger now than he did at 21. He's just an all around better fighter. I like him a lot, and especially with a layup against Chris Padilla. So, Chris Padilla can't beat people that are UFC caliber. Rongju is. Pick his Rongju, bet is going to be Rongju. Next fight of the night is the people's main event. And it's ironically enough, this one is lined at 2.5. Makes no sense. Trevor Peak minus 125 going up against Yanal Ashmouz plus 105, over 2.5 minus 130, under 2.5 at plus 100. Let's start with Yanal Ashmouz. He's my boy. I love Yanal. No one else does. Let me tell you why. Because I bet him by KO over Sam Patterson. Why? Because Yanal cracks pretty hard, and Sam Patterson was begging to get knocked out, and he was the first one to do it. 29 years old, good striking. He's at a very wrestle heavy camp. Everyone's going to talk about it's the original camp that Habib was a part of. I forgot what it's called, Toju or Toad. Yeah, K Dojo Warrior Tribe. Um, it's a very, very wrestling heavy camp. A lot of just like Russians and Europeans go over there and wrestle all day. That's what they do. And for someone that is out of that camp, not the best wrestler. Like he's all right, but it's not his bread and butter. He's an Israeli striker at a wrestling camp. It's weird. I don't know why he's not a better wrestler than he is. He should be training there. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It's not good. It's not bad. He'll mix in a takedown from time to time, but his takedown defense himself is not great. He's predominantly a striker. And people are going to talk about, well, he looked absolutely terrible and got outgunned by Chris Duncan. He broke his arm in round one. He blocked the kick and it broke his arm. Chris Duncan did nothing wrong. He broke the arm, but he fought 13 minutes with one arm, and it looked it. He got absolutely beat pillar to post by Chris Duncan. But what the fuck was he supposed to do with one arm? He did not quit on himself. He continually swung as hard as he could. He was throwing knees at one point because he didn't have an arm to throw, so he just started throwing other limbs at Chris Duncan. And God, he fought for my money. I had money on him. He got absolutely killed, and I was impressed with him. He had one. He was a one-arm fighter and fought for my dollar. I love that. And I will always love Yanal Ashmos for going out there and fighting for your dollar. You know who else does that? Trevor fucking Peak. Trevor Peak is 29 years old. He has a 2-inch reach advantage. His striking, I don't want to call it good. I can't call it bad. It's original. It's peak. He carries a ton of power. Jiu-jitsu's ass. And his cardio is not great. He does slow down in his fights. His takedown defense, probably worst part of his game, 54% takedown defense. And you can rock this guy. He's never been knocked out, but I've seen him on death's door multiple times. He will try to offensively wrestle, and he's trying his best, man. I mean, he's just one of these. He's a brawler. That's the only way to explain it. He runs at you with standing hammer fists. The announcers aren't gonna. They cannot wait for him to throw that standing hammer fist. It is his trademark. Very few people have trademarks in the UFC. Ironically enough, OSP has one with the Von Flu, which is now coined the Von Crew, because he hits it every other fight. Trevor Peaks says that standing hammer fist, man, and he throws it a lot. He's doing his best. He's training over with Dwayne Ludwig. He's at a real camp. He's trying to get away from his brawling ways and be more technical and be a UFC fighter. He is taking this seriously, and I have all the respect in the world to Trevor Peak. But at the end of the day, it comes down to talent. He's kind of older. He's 29 years old, so he's picking up a lot of stuff now, but he's starting pretty late in his career, in his life to start this career. And if you hit him, he will see red and he'll just start brawling. He will try to be technical, but if you crack him hard enough, he will resort to his old ways and just pressure forward and swing. No head movement, hands extremely low, being extremely tired. He will not give up on himself, and he will swing, and he will be dangerous for all 15 minutes. But Jesus Christ, is he hittable? And god damn, is this takedown defense bad? 54% takedown defense. Moose, not a good wrestler, but better than Trevor Peak. Moose, not a great striker. I would probably say better than Trevor Peak. I think Trevor Peak hits harder, but if you go durability for durability, neither one of these guys have jujitsu. So it's going to be a crazy stand up war. Should kind of be negated on the feet, should be negated on in regards to wrestling. And if you take durability for durability, I haven't seen Ash Moose hurt. I've seen Peak hurt multiple times. Optics are going to be in Ashmu's favor, and he has the plus sign next to his name. I love Trevor Peak. I love Yanal, and I'm just going to have to take the plus money. Whoever was the dog I was going to trust, it just happens to be Ashmus here. So the pick is going to be Yanal Ashmus. The bet is going to be Yanal Ashmus in a fun fight. Next fight of the night is another one I'm very just perturbed by the fact that this was put on short notice. We have Matt Danger Schnell going up against Cody Durden. Schnell is a plus 250 dog, Durden a minus 300 favorite. There is no over under, and that's because this fight was added today. This is Wednesday, so it was added yesterday. Sorry, it was added on Tuesday. So Cody Durden's taking this on like 6 days' notice. I don't think it was added Tuesday or Monday. It was talked about. He's taking it on under a week's notice. Let's put it that way. And that's odd because Cody Durden is 33 years old, and the worst part of his game is his cardio. I will say this fight is going to be up a weight class at 135. It listed at 125. Here it is at 135. But again, the fact that he's taking it on short notice and he just got knocked out pretty badly by Bruno Silva a month and a half ago. I've seen Cody Durden rocked and chin checked multiple times. I've seen him KO'd multiple times. So honestly, cardio is the worst part. Second worst part of his game is his chin. And now he's taking a fight on short notice, coming off of a knockout recently. That's weird. He's the minus 300 favorite. That's weird. At Dogger Pass, I just finished listening to it. They were talking about how he has his girlfriend in his corner, fucking what's his name, Mike Perry style, where he had no coaches and just had his girlfriend in his corner. That's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here. I don't like any of it. I don't trust any of it. And him at minus 300, fuck no. On the other side, Matt Schnell is 34 years old, but he's fought the better level of competition. Honestly, he's the much better striker. He's the much faster man. He does that stupid sideways looking thing where he's looking out the corner of his eyes. That drives me crazy. But I fuck with Matt Schnell. I like Matt Schnell. I think he's a really good fighter. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. It should honestly be a wash on the mat. On the feet, Schnell's the better striker. I will say the problem is a 50% takedown defense. That is not good going against Cody Durden, who's a power wrestler who hits hard. Schnell is someone with sus takedown defense and has the worst chin in the division. It's up there, top 5 worst in the UFC. If you touch him, he goes out. Every time someone throws something his way, I cringe because I usually have money on match now for some godforsaken reason. I like the dude, and the dude is very talented, and he's a very good fighter. But God, if you hit him, he goes out. Steve Ursing, knockout. Mateus Nicolau, knockout. Brandon Royval, he was looking great. And Raw Dog's my favorite fighter in the UFC by none. I definitely had Raw Dog in that fight. rocked the Raw Dog, and the Raw Dog tapped him out. Tyson Nam, who's one of the hardest punchers in the weight class, he survived. Makes no fucking sense. Alexander Pantoja, current champion, knocked out. Yeah, even on the regional, or sorry, the UFC before that with Hector Sandoval, knocked out. Rob Font, knocked out. Oh God, this isn't good. He gets knocked out all the fucking time. Then he got guillotined on the regional scene. So yeah, you can finish this guy. He's only lost by decision one time. Yeah, that's that's not good. Dude has 8 losses. 7 of them are by finish. 5 of them by knockout. Dude's chinny. Very chinny. Great fighter. 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup, which is nice. Can he just stick and move and outpoint Cody Durden? Absolutely. Can he just survive and not get submitted and let Cody Durden gas out? Absolutely. Could he get chin checked or just laid and prayed by Cody Durden? Probably more likely, but not at minus 300. Fuck that. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to hate myself later on. Cody Durden's probably going to knock him out, but the pick is going to be Cody Durden, but my money is going to be on Match Now. They keep giving me plus 200 on Match Now. This one's plus 250, and he had the full fight camp. God damn it, I'm going to fall for it again. I'm going to bet Match Now. Next fight of the night. Talk about people you just have to just plug your nose and pick them. Steve Garcia is a favorite, minus 185, going up against Kyle Nelson, plus 155. Over under, it's a Steve Garcia fight. It's 1.5, sheer violence. Over 1.5, plus 135. Under 1.5, minus 175. If we're going to say his name multiple times, we got to go ahead and start with my boy, Steve Garcia, taking this on short notice. 2-inch reach advantage, 32 years old, good striking, ton of power. This man is the definition of the death touch. How he made 135, I will never fucking know. But if he touches you at 145, you go out. If he touches you at 155, he's even stronger. You go out. Like there's the higher in weight class this guy goes, the more power he gets. It's insane. The hardest puncher I've ever seen in the lighter weight classes in my life. Period. He's not the greatest fighter. Don't hear what I'm not saying. The hardest puncher I've ever seen. He could knock out Islam Makhachev easily. You give him anyone in the UFC, he can put your lights out. Give him Taporia, you will always be liable for the KO. That's how hard this dude hits. Here's the problem. Can't take a punch. He can dish it out. He only has one knockout on his record, which was Mahashate. But God damn it, he gets rocked all the time. Sunwoo Choi didn't drop him, but he rocked him on the feet. Then Steve Garcia saw red and knocked him out in a minute. He just literally lost it and just started swinging. Malquez Costa grappled him for an entire round. Steve Garcia saw red, marched across the octagon in round 2, and knocked him out. Shalian Nurdembeki dropped Steve Garcia badly, but then Steve Garcia got up and knocked him out. Chase Hooper, he just swung on him for 90 straight seconds and put him out. Mahashate, again, knocked him out, or got knocked out. Charlie Ontiveros dropped him twice. And then Steve Garcia got up and knocked him out. Luis Pena grapple fucked him. Chepe Mariscal rocked him and he knocked him out. Like this dude continually just goes out there, gets cracked, sees red, and puts your lights out. That's what he does. But there are times when, he sees red and it's too late. Like he's out. He's not seeing red. He's seeing black and stars. So are you going to put him out or is he going to put you out? If you give him a power punch, he's 88% takedown defense as well. That's underrated that no one talks about. It's not easy to take him down. His jiu-jitsu's okay, but he's not going to sub you. He wants to get up and knock you out. But if you take him down, it's very hard. It's very hard to. 88% takedown defense. He doesn't go down easily. He wants to stand and knock you out. But they're giving him a power puncher in Kyle Nelson. He's 33 years old. He has good striking and a ton of power himself. His wrestling, he'll try to use and has been using it a lot recently, but he's not a good wrestler. He's just has high fight IQ. He took down Dohoo Choi because Choi has god awful takedown defense. He stood and banged with Blake Builder because Blake Builder is a god awful striker. Fernando Padilla, he just leg kicked to death because he's a little twig and just kind of took away all of his movement. And Bill Algeo is known for getting cracked. He's known for having durability, but he put him out. So the dude always has great fight IQ, great game plans, but he has bad cardio. He's a little hittable on himself. His wrestling, although he'll do it, it's not great, and he will just hold you up against the cage to try to steal minutes. Slows down in his fights, but he does this weird shell up where he's very hard to hit. Like, I know I said he's hittable. That's because he's letting you hit him, but he's like shelling up and protecting himself. Steve will go to the body. So I don't like him just with that high shell and then just getting absolutely obliterated. I could see Steve with a liver shot KO. Or I could see Kyle literally covering up and then just countering and putting Steve's lights out. I see it either way. Either way, I see a knockout. This thing ain't going 15. The under 1.5 is set at minus 175. I'll again do the same thing and eat the chalk. I'll go ahead and I'll pick Steve Garcia. I'm not going to turn my back on my boy. But in regards to a bet, it's going to be the under 2.5 all day. I might just take all three alt 2.5s, parlay them together, and call it a day. Pick a Steve Garcia. The bet is the under 2.5. Then that takes us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Jessica Andrade at plus 245 going up against Natalia Silva at minus 305. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 165. Under 2.5 plus 130. This is one I've gone back and forth all week. I don't really know what to do with this fight. Let's start with Jessica Andrade. She's the former champion. She's 32 years old, even though she's like 68 in fight years. She has good striking. She has good jiu-jitsu when she wants to. She is okay wrestling when she wants to. Ton of volume, ton of power, 72% takedown defense. And again, she'll sprinkle in the takedown from time to time. There's pretty decent cardio for someone that just kind of stalks you and swings like a berserker. Just pressures forward, like I said, just marches forward, throws body shots, throws head strikes, will mix in takedowns. She's just very, very aggressive. She's very, very strong, and she's very good everywhere. She has no holes in her game. She has been submitted at times, but those are all to bigger girls. Like Blanchfield's a 125er. She got submitted by Valentina, or did she get submitted, or was it just a crucifix? Well, she got submitted by Tatiana Suarez, who's world class on the ground and an Olympic wrestler. Valentina was the crucifix, but again, it was her ground game. It is what it is. She also has submission wins. She submitted Amanda Lemos with the standing arm triangle. Like, you never know what version of Jessica Andrade you're getting. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But what I did notice is that she's known as being like a female BMF, and she'll fight you anywhere, anytime. She has wins at 135. She has wins at 125. She has wins at 115 and became champ there. And she'll go back up to 125. She'll fight you on short notice. She'll fight former champions. She'll fight contenders. She'll fight up and comers. She will fight everybody. If you have a pulse, Jessica Andrade, you're on her radar. But people might be overhyping her run at 125. It has been going great. She beat Lauren Murphy, which is good. Is that it? Like, she beat Caitlin Chikagian. She has 2 wins at 125. Literally. I mean, they're not terrible wins, but Caitlin Chukagian is not very physically strong, and she just bullied her. And Lauren Murphy's a standing punching bag. I like Lauren, but we all know she's a standing punching bag. That was cater made for her. Otherwise, like, she's not getting a lot of wins at 125. Like, was Cynthia Calvillo at 125? It might have been. Maybe she has 3. But Lemos is at 115. Mackenzie Dern 115. Marina Rodriguez 115. All of these wins are at 115. Like, that's where she should be for her style. I don't like when she jumps up to 125. I don't think she's nearly as good at 125. She's a physical girl, and she's giving up weight when she goes up to 125. And that's what she's doing here with Natalia Silva. Now, Natalia Silva is one of the smaller girls at 125, but she's finally going to be bigger than somebody. She's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. She's only 27 years old. He unfortunately trains with Paulo Costa, but she kind of strikes like him. Paula is a good striker. Paulo is a good striker. She's quick, man. She's very, very quick and throws everything in combination, like 7, 8 strike combinations. Very, very, very good countering. Very, very, very good takedown defense at 91%. She has good volume. Hit sneaky hard. Like, she can crack. Has a ton of knockouts on her record. Has good cardio. Skates around with all this combinations, all these volumes, all this power, and does it flawlessly for 15 minutes without even breathing heavy. Her schedule's okay. They're progressing her appropriately. She had the big upset against Jazz Delicious. Then they gave her Teresa Bleda, who's a grappler, and they're like, okay, let's see if you can do it again. And she did. A big girl. Victoria Leonardo, they finally believed in her. And if they believe in you, they're going to give you Leonardo to get a highlight reel. Let's see if you can get a finish in the UFC. She did. Then they gave her Andrea Lee, who's a fringe top 15 girl. She won. Then they gave her Viviana Araujo, who's a fringe top 10 girl. She won. And now they're giving her Jessica Andrade. She's a fringe top 5 girl. They are progressing her nicely in the appropriate time frame. She's 27 years old, entering her physical prime. Is okay jiu-jitsu. She's good everywhere. Very, very kick heavy. She yaws a little herself and yells as she swings, which is good in the apex. The judges hear her going hey, hey, hey every time she strikes, and it just makes it seem more impactful, makes it seem harder, and makes it seem like she's landing more, even when she misses. They think she's hitting. So I do think this line's off. I don't want to trust her at minus 305, especially against in women's MMA against a former champion. No. Viviana Araujo had a very good first round against her by pressuring her. That's what Jessica Andrade does. But you want a hot take? I like the under 2.5. I think Natalia's going to clip her. Andrade is mad. Andrade is going up 125, up to 125, where she doesn't look as good. Andrade is not mentally there, talking about suing her coach and all the stuff that's going on. Andrade might be there for a paycheck. And the last time she was there for a paycheck, we saw her get knocked out by Yan Chanan. So we saw her get tapped out by Aaron Blanchfield. She admits she wasn't really training hard for those fights. She was there for a paycheck, and now she's in this big lawsuit saying she's broke. Might be there for a paycheck going up a weight class again, and I don't like that. So, although I think the line's off, and you should never bet women's MMA at minus 300, I mean, take that from the guy that bet against Shannon Clark only because she was minus 1,800. I hit a plus 1,000 dog solely on the fact that it was women's MMA at a high, high, high number. I'm looking, it's not that high. I want to do it again, but I think I'm going to flip it. I'm going to change the narrative, and I'm going to get plus money on the Silva by knockout, and that's how I'm going to play it. Pick is going to be Silva, bet's going to be Silva by KO. And that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, what the fuck are you doing? Make sure you hit that subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever there's social media. There's the Stats and Stacks podcast. We have another weird one. We have Gilbert Burns at plus 150 going up against Sean Brady at minus 180. Over 4.5 minus 130, under 4.5 at plus 100. Let's start with Sean Brady. He's someone that I've had a love hate relationship with. He's 31 years old. He has an inch and a half inch reach advantage here. Or sorry, 1.5 inch reach advantage here. He has really, really, really good Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. He has very, very good wrestling. The striking's okay. It's sneaky good. It's cardio. I'm pretty sure it used to be trash. It used to be absolutely terrible. But tell me if I'm wrong. I think he had the Driscus Duplessis no surgery. And whatever they do to open these nostrils, all of a sudden they can go 25 minutes when they couldn't before. I'm 90% sure he had that surgery. And in that Gastelum fight, I know it only went 2 rounds. Dude wasn't even breathing heavy. Like, he looked fine. He got knocked out by Bilal, had the surgery, came back with cardio. Sorry, it was round 3. It was round 3. Wasn't even breathing heavy. He didn't have to do much. He's very low volume. He only counters on the feet. And that Bilal fight, I mean, he got clipped. He was waiting, trying to counter. He got clipped and he got put out, which is bad because Bilal's not a power puncher. So his chin might be questionable. His cardio might be fixed, not too sure. But the dude is a wet blanket when he's on top. He's freakishly strong, and he generally has really good IQ. I do watch his podcast from time to time. They're just gonna grapple you. They don't care. They even tell you what they're gonna do. He actually was talking about Andre winning by submission. So I think I'm going to take the under in that fight, and he's looking to do the same. He's not scared. He is not intimidated by Gilbert Burns' ground game whatsoever, especially because he's the better wrestler and he expects to be on top. He's not going to get caught with an armbar. He's not going to get caught with a triangle while he's on bottom or while he's on top. He needs to worry if he's on bottom. He's not great off his back. He kind of shells up and plays it safe. But as long as he's on top, he's a good hammer and a bad nail at the end of the day. That's how he is. But if he's on top of Gilbert, he's not scared. He's not scared at all. which is something you need in MMA. You can't be intimidated in what you're good at. On the other side, we have Gilbert, who's fought the better level of competition, who is on paper the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. But if Brady's on top, I don't know about that. He has good striking. He's technically the better striker, but if Sean Brady hits him, I don't know about that because we think Brady's chinny. We know Gilbert's chinny. If you throw a jab at Gilbert, he's going down. He has good striking. He has good wrestling himself, but it's 50% takedown defense, which is the fight for me. He's a former lightweight. Brady couldn't make lightweight if he tried. He himself can slow down in this fight. He is not a beacon of cardio. And people say, well, sometimes he slows, sometimes he doesn't. Why? It's wrestling. Wrestling is the thing that makes you most tired in a fight, hands down. Everyone's aware of this. He is 38 years old. He tried to wrestle his last fight and he gassed out and got knocked out in round 3. Belal, he didn't gas out. But you know what? 0 takedowns. No one wrestled. They stood and banged and they were both hurt. Belal had 1 foot. Uh, Gilbert tore his shoulder and 1 shoulder. So he's a 38-year-old coming off of a torn shoulder. Historically bad cardio when wrestling. He was able to beat Jorge Masvidal by wrestling, but that was 3 rounds. He was able to beat Neil Magny because he submitted him. He gassed out against Hamzat Chimaev, and you know what? There were a few takedowns in that matchup, and he slowed down. This is not rocket science. If he wrestles, he gasses. If he just strikes the whole time, he's fine. And the only anomaly is Tyron Woodley, but he took down Tyron Woodley and just stayed on top of him and was able to recover. He didn't gas against Woodley by any means, but he wasn't fresh. He was still a little tired. If he stands, he's fine. If he wrestles, he gets a little tired. Brady's going to make him wrestle. Now, can Brady wrestle the whole 25 minutes? I have no fucking clue. But at the end of the day, either one of them can get knocked out at any point in time. Either one of them can get submitted at any point in time. Either one of them can gas out at any point in time. So I am not fucking picking a side. If anything, I think Brady's a better wrestler, so I'm going to pick Sean Brady. But I like this 4.5 being plus money. The under 4.5 at plus 100, I think I'm going to have to pounce on it. The pick is going to be Sean Brady, but the bet's going to be the under 4.5. And that's UFC Vegas 97, Brady versus Burns. A fun fight card. There's 13 fights, and like 9 of them have under 1.5. They expect violence. I expect violence. I expect a good time, and I expect to make money, baby. Let's get it.